Welcome to another episode of Coffee and Clarity, Preventing Substance Misuse. We brought to you by Empower. I'm Reyna, and this is Georgia.
Today we're sitting down with two school resource officers, Officer Lily Paine from the Fairmont Police Department and Deputy Chris Gerhardt from the Martin County Sheriff's Office. They're going to share their experiences in building relationships with students and how they make a positive impact at their schools. Thank you both for joining us today.
Can each of you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what led you to become a school resource officer?
I've been a police officer now for 10 years, and I've worked mostly patrol, but I also was on the drug task force for a few years, so I have worked investigations as well. And for me, it was just time to get off the road. I worked a lot of nights, a lot of weekends, and for my family, they're younger, I have teenagers, so it was great to be able to work a day shift and to be around, kids, and to instead of be focusing on the criminal side of law enforcement, to be focusing more on the community side and the family side of law enforcement.
My name is Chris Gerhardt, and I actually got to go to Fairmont School and graduate more than 20 years ago. After that, I went to Duluth for college, and then got my degree there and went down to Las Vegas Valley to start my law enforcement career. And in Las Vegas Valley, they have some struggling school districts, and routinely we'd get called by the school district to come in and assist with a large number of things. And I realized that to best impact like crime, you really have to focus on the children, right, and the youth and the students, and really develop those relationships so students learn to trust and call when there's problems. So when I moved back, I realized there wasn't a school resource officer position, so I worked with the Grenada Huntley School and with the Sheriff's Office, and we're able to create it, and that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at now.
Can you share with us what the role of a school resource officer involves?
In my school, I am a staff member. We're there for safety, but we're also a support staff. So if there's questions about what laws are, education for the students. There is that aspect of, is the school safe? But I think most of the time, yes, the school is safe, and then we can focus on the needs of the students. And if there's questions about laws, and then again, that educating part. So I love that we get to kind of step in and, what school is about is learning and that education aspect, and that we're there as a staff member.
Well said. Contractually, a school resource officer has three main roles. One is educator, one is enforcer, and then one is counselor. And that's how we best engage and maximize the safety in a school. But I see the role as more like a protector and a mentor and a leader. And I just happen to wear a uniform there so they become more comfortable with law enforcement, and that I'm more than just a badge that may have arrested one of their parents the night before, or may have been at a traffic accident, right? So inside the school, one of the roles is simply to be a person that people can gain information from, as well as learn to trust, and perhaps maybe even inspire them to go into law enforcement or another job in criminal justice.
What's a typical day look like for you as an SRO?
I can go first on this one. So every day is different, but I try to have a checklist so I have a balanced approach. Like I drive around the school neighborhood in the morning when I get there. I check out the school parking lot because that's where a lot of the teenagers tend to congregate before school when they have spare time. After that, I go into the main entry points of the school when people congregate near the lockers or near the lunchrooms when they're grabbing breakfast. And then the bells ring and people hurry off to their classrooms, so then I'm checking the class hallways to make sure everybody's made it to their classrooms and the bathrooms and other common spaces where problems might happen, or conflicts might happen, or fights might happen, or thefts might happen. So at that point throughout the day, I'm lucky enough to teach a college course at our school, so I'll teach one college course per semester, which counts for MSU credit. After that, I spent a lot of time inside of the lunchrooms, when the students are just, they have free time and they're focused on eating. You can ask a lot of questions then. And then the remainder of the day, I try to go to the faculty lounge and really engage each classroom as I go, and just be a resource. And then again, when the day is winding down, I try to figure out who might have conflict with who, and then just be in that specific area. Because a lot of what we do is called, you have general deterrence, the idea of that you shouldn't break a rule or violate a law because you get punished, but then we have specific deterrence, and that's why we have uniforms, that's why we have marked squad cars. Just simply being in that space and them seeing us usually deters a lot of what they do. So that's my typical day, and I don't know what it's like in Fairmont.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also have the elementary school as part of that I kind of patrol. So my office is at the high school. I would say I'm there probably 75% of the time, but I also have the opportunity to go and visit the elementary school. So when I have the chance, I love to be over at the elementary school and having those positive interactions with those really young kids, because I think sometimes you get those kids who are like, oh, arrest me, or take me away. And you want to really say, oh, no, that's not what cops do, and give them that high five. Or you have those kids who do have those negative interactions. They've only seen cops because you've been to their house and maybe arrested that parent. And they want to come and talk to you about that. And you're like, hey, but we're at school and this is a fun time. And, we're here to say hi to you. And so I think it's just as important for me, because I have access to be at another school, to see them when they're younger and show them the squad car and answer their questions. I think at the high school it takes on a little bit more of the serious tone sometimes of our job, because they might be, they're driving now, you guys are out and about in the public and making big grown-up decisions, but when they're younger, you're just getting to say hello and making them comfortable with law enforcement. So
I have a quick question for both of you. When you do have the negative interactions with kids, how do you deal with those?
I would say, it depends on the student. I always try to leave it on a positive note. Was it negative because they were having a bad day? You can acknowledge, you're having a bad day, and I'm not going to hold that against you. We can turn this around. Every time I see you, I'm not going to bring this up. Tomorrow's a new day. And again, I think defining what our role was, I had contact with you because of that behavior. It doesn't mean tomorrow that I have to have that contact with you. Tomorrow I can see you in the hall and we can just say hi. So I try to have that positive, and then find ways to have better positive interactions with that student. Are they an athlete? Go and talk to them about their sports, if they are in clubs and things like that. So don't focus on the negative, even if maybe they want to. I don't take it personally if they didn't like our interaction.
Great points. When we do have a negative interaction in school, I think a lot of police officers got into the position we're in to keep people safe, to protect them, and to help problem solve. But not every problem is ours to solve, and not every problem can be solved, especially in that moment where there's a lot of emotion. So simply labeling emotions, I think, helps a lot, and knowing that the entire school is a huge team. Every staff member has a different role. If somebody's having a negative interaction with me or just angry at me for whatever reason, there's a lot of people you can direct. There's a lot of people that you can contact and then seek out that student, whether it's a counselor or a social worker or a dean or a principal or a trusted teacher or even a peer, like a friend. So I suppose just knowing that we can't solve every problem, and in fact, a lot of the times we shouldn't solve every problem, but engage them, to just give them time, give them space, let them grab the words that describe what they're going through, and then just checking in with them the next day or the next week.
What's the most rewarding part of your role?
When students or staff ask me really meaningful questions, whether they're going through something at home, whether they're going through something with a relationship, but being asked those questions that for whatever reason they're not comfortable asking their own parents or their own teachers, that to me is probably the most meaningful part, when they seek you out and they have a genuine question that they don't feel comfortable asking anyone else. Because I'm neither a teacher nor a parent. It's a really unique opportunity where we can bring a lot of experiences and skills we have, and just to be that like independent party, that third person.
Yeah, I would say that too. I've offered to students, hey, this is a safe spot. If you need to vent, you can come here and have that moment, because if you're going to say something negative, I'm not going to be offended. And so when they actually take that opportunity to say, I'm just having a bad day, and, I'm going to take you up on that offer, and I just need to say this because I'll get in trouble if I said it in class, and you're like, good. Like, you're emotionally regulating, you listened to yourself, you took me up on that offer. I mean, it means you built trust with that student. And you know that they listened the first time around, which sometimes you're not always sure if that student was listening, and you just have to keep putting that kind of olive branch out there to them, and not take offense if students also aren't taking you up on that offer. You just have to keep having that open door policy with students. So.
How do you approach building trust with students, and what are some strategies you use to create positive relationships?
So I always go back to what I know. I'm a parent of 3 kids, 2 teenagers, one who thinks he's a teenager, but that's okay, he'll get there. And then, so I use skills that I use as a parent, and then I use skills that I was taught down in Las Vegas Valley, where I went through the FBI's hostage negotiator course and spent a couple years being a negotiator. And in negotiation, just like parenting, the concept is oftentimes you're going to have cycles of emotion, cycles of like clear logical thought. And when I'm trying to develop trust with somebody, the concept is, it's super simple. It's just genuine curiosity, right? No judgment, and then you prolong time. And over time, the more genuine curiosity you express to somebody, the more they're going to, respond with meaningful conversation. And then over time, trust develops as an outcome of that. So I just try to be where the students are, especially those that need that trusting adult, and just ask them genuine curiosity questions about their day or their class or what they're wearing or what they're eating or where they're going or what their plans are. And over time, when they feel that curiosity is genuine and I have no motive behind it, then that trust just develops. But sometimes it takes years. And that's why most school resource officers are assigned to a school for a minimum 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I agree with Deputy Gerhardt that listening, people can tell if you're not really listening. You can ask a question, but if you're not listening, like teenagers especially can tell the difference. If there's a difference between, hey, how's your day? And you keep walking, and how's your day? And you stop and you listen to what their answer was. And so I think it's so important to be really listening if you're going to engage. And also, to me, honesty, if I'm dealing with a student, if I'm going to contact their parent about that situation, that student knows I'm going to be calling home. If I think they're going to get a citation, they know that a citation is coming. Like, I'm not going to be surprising them with things. If I also don't know where it's going to go because it's a policy violation at school, it's going to kind of go back to the principal or the admin, I explain that. And I don't want it to be surprising, because I don't think that's going to build trust in that interaction between them and me, because then they go away and they're like, oh, that's not what she said to me. And again, if I don't know something, I am absolutely confident and comfortable in saying, I don't know, I'm going to ask someone, I'll get back to you later. But you got to get back to them. And that's important too, the follow-up, the follow-through. And so I make notes, and it's like, I got to check in with so-and-so. And again, you got to do it.
Can either of you share a story or example of a time that you've been able to make a difference in a student's life, either through direct support or being a role model?
Role modeling is really important of all adults, especially teachers, especially officers that are in the school system. Like, role modeling allowed me to make a difference on a larger scale by engaging a lot of students and just providing them like mentor-like things with the hope that then they would, pay that forward and they would become the role model and they would mentor other students, whether they're friends or underclassmen. But I was able to develop that mentoring relationship with a student, and that student had the courage to talk to me about something they're going through and feelings of depression and harming themselves. And if they didn't have that courage because of that relationship we had, I wouldn't be able to partner with the school and the school resource, with the school and the psychologist and then mental health services outside. So that's the general approach I have, and that was one example where role modeling directly benefited somebody's life because then they could develop the courage to share with me plans they had to harm themselves. So that's one example that I have.
I feel like I'm still building a relationship, in school. This is my first year as a school resource officer, but I've been really happy when, a staff or one of our team members, an admin come to the door and they say, a student would like to talk to you. They asked, can you come and help us with this problem? And, that's cool because sometimes it is just a policy thing in school. They're having an issue in class and not law enforcement related at all. And that you're fitting in with the school and you've kind of found your place when it's not always like, hey, am I going to get in trouble if I'm doing donuts in the parking lot? You're not just being asked those law enforcement questions, that that, okay, like there's a level of trust if even staff can come and ask me to help. But if a student's asking for you by name just because they'd like you to sit in and just listen, that's been really cool to experience.
Are you both involved in teaching, whether through presentations or formal classes? If so, how does this aspect of your role help you connect with students beyond your traditional law enforcement duties?
So I am able to teach some classes, whether it's on vaping or bullying, cyberbullying, digital citizenship, or teaching through the post-board with a mental illness course that this role gave me enough time to be able to create, or teaching through the university to students. And I think one of the things that allows me to do, which is outside the traditional role of law enforcement, is you really get to engage with a student, figure out their hopes and dreams, figure out their skill sets and their personality preferences, and figure out what they want to do with their life, right? Who they want to help, and then what they want to do in order to help them. And that bridges beyond just the here and now. So it bridges beyond the classroom. So you can really gain trust with where they want to go and how that class impacts where they want to go, and then still stay in contact with them. And that's true with people who, even right now, are graduating college and getting jobs with the DNR in other states and jobs with policing in Martin County itself. So it's really cool to see after several years you can really develop those trusting relationships simply by being an SRO and by teaching classes that really helps you stay connected outside of school.
I've had the opportunity to teach some health classes, like assist with the health classes on distracted driving. You can remind those students of maybe statutes that they're forgetting about, as they become a new driver. I've also had the opportunity to go over to the elementary school and help with things. They're getting their tablets for the first time in 3rd grade. So we talk about internet safety. And so it's really exciting to me to have teachers reach out and say, is this a topic that you'd be comfortable talking to the students about? And I get to put something together and present that to the teacher and see if that's what they were looking for, because there's so much knowledge that us as law enforcement have from all of our training, but also to hear from the teachers what they're seeing as problems for the students or questions they're getting from the students that you're like, yeah, that is something that I've gone to a training on. The internet safety is a huge thing that we're seeing with students. We also see distracted driving as a huge issue with our students. So it's cool to be able to bridge that gap, because our teachers might not have gone to trainings associated with the things that our officers have, and to bring that back to our students.
What are some of the challenges you face in your role as an SRO, and how do you overcome them?
One of the most difficult things I experience at our school is when students will come to school and then they'll openly talk to their teachers about one of their family members or one of their parents having just been arrested. And you could tell it really impacts that student, especially like the elementary age students. But it's more of an opportunity than anything. So when the time is right, then I try to make a point to go to that classroom multiple times that day and the next day. Not to necessarily say anything specific or cover any content, but just to be there to let them know that we're just not there to arrest people, but we're there to just be somebody they can talk to, or help them with a task and homework or an activity outside. So to me, the biggest challenges or difficult parts of our job is seeing children coming to school with emotional injuries, and then bringing that into the classroom, yet being courageous enough to share it with their students and with their staff, but then using that as an opportunity for us to literally be that face of law enforcement for them, and realize that we're there to help them.
Some of the challenges I face is, educating about that role of what a school resource officer is to sometimes to parents. They have this idea of, can you put my kids in cuffs and take them around the block in the squad car? Because I just think that would, get this point into their head that they don't want them to be acting this way anymore. And you're like, we don't do that. That's not going to help. Yeah. And that would never be appropriate, and really to educate that that's not our role, and again that comes from a public perception of law enforcement, but also a public perception of, I think, what they think that we're there as like big, strong, tough, and again that's a rarity that we would ever approach a student in that way. And I think that still we're working on that perception with the public, and it just is from contact to contact and updating that that perception. So, but like I said, it will take time, and if they've known officers in the past to say, well, that's not how we do it anymore. Yeah. So.
What are some things you're most proud of in the schools that you work in, and when it comes to safety?
I'm lucky enough I get to just be in one school to where we have pre-K through 12th grade. One of the many things we're taught if we went to SRO school is it's called SEPTED, and that's an acronym, and that means Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. For our school, I was able to sit down and really look at how buses come in and out, how pedestrians or students walk to school, how they get to their parents' car, where everyone parks. So I helped redesign the flow of vehicle traffic and pedestrian traffic, and where the buses will park, where they won't park. I got to help put up a few stop signs in our community on city streets, so I got to work with the city council and the mayor on behalf of the sheriff's office, with the school and also the county highway department, and also mark up some more visible crosswalks. So that was one of probably the most memorable things that you could actually see as far as differences I got to make as far as increasing the safety of the school. So.
We have a great program, the See Something, Say Something forms that our students have access to. And I think that really has increased the ability for students to say, I'm aware of something that's unsafe in this environment. It needs to be addressed in a timely manner. And those come to me, and those come to admin, and they can be addressed right away. And it's very nice that they can be anonymous. They can be very detailed, and it's a timely thing. And I think we build trust in the response to those as well, because if a student reports something, they see that it's handled in a timely manner. And I think it only works because we're responsive to it. And we've updated the form this year, and we've really updated our response to making sure that I think before there was maybe more of a 72-hour kind of response time, and really making sure that, hey, if this is an emergency, we're either calling 911 and it has to be dealt with outside of school hours, or if it's school hours, myself or a principal will be handling it right away. And I think that's really made that program much more successful in our school this year.
How do you hope the culture around school safety continues to evolve in the future?
I think Officer Paine did a really good job almost answering that with her last one, the see something, say something. We only can help influence the environment if we have the most complete, accurate, and timely information. So when you talk about changing culture or developing culture or improving relationships, it's exactly that. It's developing that trust that when you provide us information immediately, accurate information and complete information, we can do something with it. So then that just snowballs into the future with developing that culture that everyone's in charge of everyone's safety. It's not an isolated thing, and it takes all of us to come together. But somebody has to talk about how to talk about that, and then you just need to do it over a long enough time that everyone has ownership of it, and then they see the benefit of it.
Yeah, I agree with that ownership and that understanding that it's okay to say something, and we're going to use that information appropriately. We're not going to go and say, hey, so-and-so told us this is how we know that. It's handled much more confidential than that. We're smart about how we go about the investigations. And again, students only know that and trust that system if we put it into action. And I think the longer that we work on that and the longer that we put that out there to our students, the better that it will get. So.
How do you balance your duties as an SRO with your regular law enforcement responsibilities?
In the county and based on the size of our school, my hours throughout the week are a little bit different than Officer Paine's. So every single day I'm at the school for at least 1 hour teaching the college course. On 2 days of the week, I'm also in charge of patrolling around the entire county and being the bailiff or court security for the judges whenever there's in-person events at drug court or family dependency court or sentencing hearings, or anytime somebody wants to see the judge and make a statement about their case. But 3 days out of the week, I'm at the school the entire time. So as far as how I balance my time, I think contractually they just tell me where I need to be and when. But it's always being able to sort of rotate the hat a little bit and understand I'm working with students and a student population with a student experience, or I'm working inside of the court system with inmates or people who are charged with crimes, or I'm working in the general public responding to calls or seeing something and making a stop and investigating it. So to me, that's how I balance my time, but it requires a lot of mindfulness as far as who I'm around and then what kind of approach I should have.
Yep. I have the freedom to leave the schools if the community needs me to, and that's something I'm mindful of. Like I said, I can move between the two schools as needed for activities. The vast majority of the time, I want to be giving my time to those schools, but let's say there is a very big crash and all the officers in town are needed, or they're busy on other calls. Now the question is the need of the community greater than me sitting in my office at the school? I'm allowed to leave the school. So it's important for me to always be paying attention to the radio, but also kind of managing did enough people answer this call? If we have plenty of people going, maybe I'm not needed. But now if someone is needing, CPR, it's an emergency like that, or like I said, a really big crash, I can leave the school, assist. I'm usually probably one of the first people to clear and then get back to the school. And that can be a little bit of a stressor because it's usually a very, very big thing that gets me to leave the school, and then I go right back. And sometimes the school's like, hey, where did you go? And you're like, I just need a breather. And now I'm back to you. But I think that's also important to understand that we're available to the community if the need arose. And at the same time, other officers are going to come to the school. If I'm at the high school working with a student and the elementary school needed an officer, another officer is going to go to the elementary school and assist the elementary school. Just because I'm the school resource officer doesn't mean any of our officers aren't able to assist the schools.
If there was a student who was hesitant or unsure about approaching an SRO, what would you say to encourage them to reach out?
I would hope they've seen that we're in the lunchroom and there's those casual places to just say hello to us as a good place to start with. Because like I said, I think we both make ourselves available in a lot of just those common spaces. And then also I know that my door is open throughout the day if it's more of a private matter that they'd like to come and talk to me. But I would say, just try saying hi, because you'll notice that I'll just say hello back. It's pretty, I'm not going to stand there with my arms crossed and be all serious. It's like, I'll say hello, I'll say good morning. And that's such an easy way to start, realizing we're just pretty normal people.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes the hardest part about work is getting to work, and then the rest takes care of itself, sort of like a conversation. If a student is hesitant, once you say that first word, then everything else just sort of follows. So, like Officer Paine said, a simple formality like hello, how are you, good morning, and then the real reason that they want to communicate will slowly come out. So if a student was hesitant, I would just have them start with having a conversation. It doesn't even need to be about what it's about. It could be about anything. And then they'll slowly understand that there's comfort there, and if we do make ourselves available, that they can find that environment or that time where they can tell us more.
Looking forward, what are some goals you have for your role as an SRO, both in terms of student relationships and school safety?
Mine is pretty simple. It's just sticking to the basics, right? Seeking to understand, being there, expressing genuine curiosity, letting time go on and relationships develop, to continue not only focusing on the students but also the staff, as that's one of probably the biggest surprises of coming into the SRO position is over time how many staff members will seek you out and have conversations about everything you could imagine. And likewise, even the neighbors around the community. A lot of the neighbors around those school communities have a lot of questions too, or they might have problems that they just don't otherwise feel comfortable sharing. So my goal is just being present, being mindful, creating time to where students can ask questions of me, but not only for the students, but also the staff and then the neighbors.
My goal is to kind of focus on some of those building safeties. When you're a new SRO and you've just come from trainings, you walk in and you notice every unlocked door, you notice any kind of building safety concern. And I think at first your goal is to maybe change everything and want to update every policy. And then you realize, well, let's see how this school year is going, and then I'll go talk to people. But it's a goal of mine to, there are some policies that we can look at and some school safety, and we've worked with the fire marshal this year about what doors between classrooms could be locked. It's not an exit, so we could lock those doors and just stay on top of those projects, because it's really easy to just get busy with the everyday, and all of a sudden I think the year can be done and those safety projects get set aside. And so my goal is to really continue to look at those throughout the summer and those policy changes. And then I went to training for, it's called ALICE training, and that's for active threats. And that's to train the teachers and the adults how to respond to active threats. And so I'm really excited to bring some updated training to the teachers and the adults in the buildings. And again, I'm excited that I was supported by my administration to get updated training and that they're supporting me in wanting to be trained and to bring that to the students and the teachers.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Coffee and Clarity, Preventing Substance Misuse. Huge thanks to Officer Paine and Deputy Gerhardt for being part of today's conversation. This wraps up Season 3 for us, but we'll be back in September. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share the podcast. See you in September for Season 4.